Always so good to see familiar faces and new faces as well. So before I sort of jump into things and into our topic and our guest this week, would love to hear a little bit about you tonight and a little bit about your family. And if you are a new follower or someone who has joined us before, either way, we welcome you. Thanks so much for being here tonight. And I know this is a topic that so many moms are looking for ideas about. And so if you're here, I guarantee you'll walk away with some great little nuggets before the end of tonight. We have a fantastic guest who's going to offer you guys so much, and I know I've learned a lot from her already, so excited to talk with Lizzie in just a few minutes. But before we do that, just please let us know a little bit about you. So let me know how old your kids are, where you live in New Jersey, how long you've been following NJ Mom, and just how your week's going. Hopefully you're getting over the little Tuesday hump. I know that Wednesday is typically referred to as like hump day, but for me, Tuesday always feels like somehow the most intimidating. I don't know if I'm alone in that, but let me know how your Tuesday was and is going, and just what's on your mind this week. So for those of you who don't know me, or if you are a new face around here, my name is Marissa. I host our NJ Mom TV, and this is our weekly chance to connect with moms all around New Jersey about topics that are important to moms right now, particularly as we parent through this pandemic and deal with everything that comes along with it. I have 3 kids under 5 upstairs, hopefully sleeping, although I just heard from one that he's not quite asleep yet. This seems to be a recurring theme on our Tuesday night chats the last few weeks. If you've been here the last few weeks, I've had this going on, so fingers crossed, Mama. So I host these events, and I just always love, seeing you guys and connecting with you. And we've been doing this really now since back in the spring. And we always like to start this just by hearing a little bit about you guys, but also giving a thank you and a shout out to all of our essential workers who have been doing so much throughout the past 9 months now and continue to, as we're seeing this rise in cases around the city and so much. So I know we have a lot of frontline workers, healthcare workers in particular, joining us here who are moms also, or who have spouses who are on the front lines. So thank you for all that you've been doing this entire time. Always love to just give you guys an idea of some new things we have up on the site for you too, in case you missed them, or just to give a little shout out to some of the fun things we do. So I always like to just tell you about our NJ Mompreneur of the Week articles. This is a series we do every Monday. Our guest tonight, Lizzie, was an NJ Mompreneur back in the summer. And it's just a great way to really highlight moms around the state who are doing amazing things both with their business and with their family. And this week we have Gabrielle Newkirk of The Collective, super cool consignment shop in Summit, and really loved reading about her background and kind of what led her to her business and her journey as a mompreneur. So that article is up there for you if you're looking for a little inspiration. Another weekly one that is always super popular, and I know every time we do the chat, someone comments on something they did from this list, maybe 4 or 2 weeks before. So it's 7 kid-friendly things to do this week. We update this weekly. Always love to give you guys some great ideas of things that are happening around the state for you guys to do with your family. And so 2 really fun little highlights from that this week. The hot apple cider hike. How great does that sound? That's at Hartshort Arboretum. And it's basically an outdoor hike. You can learn about how animals are preparing for winter. So it's educational for the kids, nice and cozy and fun to do as a fall activity. And then the Kids Craft and Holiday Flea Market, which I know many of us are starting to think about shopping and things like that. And that actually features craft from kid entrepreneurs. So I thought that was so cool. We are dropping all of the links to everything we talk about in the chat bar. So if you hear about something and want to find out more, you can just click those links. We'll be doing that throughout the chat if it comes up. So another big highlight for this week, if you guys did not see, super excited about this, the NJ Mom Baby Expo goes virtual this year, and that is happening November 19th to the 21st. I'll be hosting that. The entire NJ Mom team is working so hard on this, and this is really the premier event for expectant and new moms around the state. 7th annual one this year, and so many fun things planned. So we have a little description up on the site, just some of the things you can expect. And we're going to be talking to you about this a lot more over the next week and a half. But if you haven't registered yet for your ticket, definitely check it out on the site. And I know that even with 3 little ones, I always learn new things at the Baby Expo, because there is just always such a valuable wealth of information for moms who are newer parents. And I still consider myself one of those, even though my oldest is 5. So make sure you check that out if you haven't already. With that said, I'm going to wait for some of your comments to come in and you guys to tell me a little bit about you and where you're from and how old your kids are and all of that. So please drop that in the comments, and also get your questions ready for our guest tonight. The last time we had Lizzie on, just as a little preface before I bring her in, was back, I think, late spring. And so many of us were really looking for just some ideas to really keep our sanity at home. And I think all of us have learned quite a bit since then. But with that said, we have winter coming. And so a new set of challenges being thrown at us, as is happening all the time with what we're dealing with. So I just think she's going to be super valuable for all of us tonight. So I'm going to bring Lizzie in now, and bear with me here as I connect her. Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm great. I'm great.
Good. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. Really appreciate you joining us. I was saying to you as we were talking before this, just how much I enjoy following you and all of what I've learned from you over the past several months. I'm so grateful for that. But for mamas who don't know anything about you and the Workspace for Children, just give us a sense of what you do and kind of what you're all about on your site and on your Instagram account.
Sure. So thanks so much for having me on. I'm so glad to be here. And I'm so glad to hear that you've learned so much from my account. Yeah. It really is it's such a passion for me to share with moms that play really is a way for us to ease burnout. And so that's basically the idea that I share on the Workspace for Children, is that when we have children who can play, we can have time back for ourselves as moms. And we all know that if we're not taking care of our own needs and getting that time, it just makes everything so much harder.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that, at least for me and for every mom in my circle, that has become even more evident over the past several months with what we've experienced. So, tell moms a little bit about your background too, because I want to get to that also. I mean, this is something you're passionate about as a mom, but you have a background in education, and so tell us about how that plays into what you share.
Sure. So I have a master's in early childhood ed, and I also taught nursery school for a very long time. And when I have 3 kids. My oldest is 12, my middle is 10, or excuse me, he's 13, 10, and 7. And when my youngest was 1, I opened an actual studio in my home where I taught parents and caregivers and children about the process of play. And that really, it just grew and grew and turned into a blog and an Instagram. And now I offer online courses for parents, caregivers, and educators.
Amazing. So Jen is saying, I wish I knew Lizzie when my kids were babies. And I'm sure a lot of moms who follow you, who maybe have kids a little older, feel that. But what I love is that your account really speaks to and your advice speaks to the foundation of play and setting our kids up from a young age, and how that sort of carries through at various points in their life, but also from an adult perspective. In some ways, you often talk about that, how these things are really lifelong skills that are so important. And to be honest, before I really started researching stuff like this as a newer mom, I never really thought about that, like as an adult, or as how my childhood and my play sort of shaped me in my life. So yeah, I agree with you, Jen. I feel so lucky that I found Lizzie at this time in my life, because I'm able to kind of implement some of these things at a younger age. So let's start by just talking about some generic, easy things and strategies, so to say, for moms who are struggling now more than ever with getting their kids to kind of play independently.
Sure.
Where do you start?
So you want to start at the very beginning, which is thinking about why you even want your kids to play independently. Why is it important to you? Not why is it important because that's what the experts say or that's what their teacher says, but why is it important for you? So I know for a lot of us as moms, it's really important for our kids to play independently because we can't actually be with them every single second. We can't. And when we try to, it leads to frustration for them and frustration for us and just all around burnout. So the starting would really be to just figure out why, because that's going to help you set limits around independent play. And once you know why you want to do it, you want to start by spending time actually with your kid and calling it what it is. So you want to say to them, like, right now, for the next 5 minutes, let's spend this time together, just me and you. I'm turning off my phone, and it really can be just 5 minutes. Really fill their bucket and give them your undivided attention. It doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter if you have a fancy play prompt or read a book together or really just sit there and stare at the wall. It doesn't matter. Our kids just want to know that we see them and that we hear them. And that doesn't, even though we're spending all this time together as families, we're so distracted because we're trying to work and we're trying to take care of everyone's needs and our own. So at the end of the day, even though we're together all the time, we're not really connecting. So if we can take that time to connect and label that for what it is, our kids don't need to ask for that throughout the day. So giving that alone is going to help them naturally play more independently because they're going to feel secure. They've already had your undivided attention. Now, does that mean they're not going to ask you for more and more and more? Of course not. Of course they're going to ask you for more because it's the best thing ever, you know? But you will see, even if you can start really small, and this applies for teens, tweens, infants, and babies, and toddlers, for all of them. They just want to know that we see them and we're connecting with them. That's going to lead really towards independent play.
Yeah. I think what you mentioned really at the start and just now, both so important, is that sometimes as moms, we feel as though we should be playing with our kids all the time. And, you know, that mom guilt is very easy to kind of dive into when there is so much you need to get done around the house. And, you know, there are certain days where like, you're just like, I don't have, you know, like you need to play, you know? And so I think that that's really important for us as moms to just remember is that it's not physically possible or emotionally.
And I think it really helps us to think about like the quality of play over the quantity of play with your child. So a lot of the time when we're saying, okay, I'll play with you, we're really just like laying on the floor, scrolling our phone, like half making the Barbie talk, right? And that could go on for a really long time. And they're still going to keep saying, play with me, because they know that you're not really present. You're not really connected with them because how could you be? You have so many other things to do. So if you can carve out that time and like connect and really turn off your phone and just focus on them, that quality of time spent, or even if you do love to play, I mean, a lot of people love to play with their kids.
Right. Yeah.
And that's great. Do that without your phone, without the distractions, even if it's for a very short amount of time, because that short amount of time connecting is worth so much more than the hours we spend like kind of just like half sleeping on the couch and like making the figures move.
Right. Answering emails, realizing, oh, I have to step away. This person's calling, you know, just all of those little things we're dealing with on a daily basis. Okay. So super important. Now, what happens when that 5 minutes is up? Because 10 minutes, like, then what? How do we transition into, okay, like,
so I like to
do
be
this.
really honest with my kids. And of course, there's more to it than this. I teach a whole course on this, and I have an ebook about how to really teach your child the structure. And I say teach your child, but it's really how to teach ourselves the structure of setting up quiet time and independent play. But the short of it is that I really encourage people to be honest with their kids. And I'm even talking about toddlers. They're people, and even babies. You know, you can talk to your baby. They might not talk back to you, but they understand your intention. And if they don't right away, they eventually will. And so I say to them, we were together, you know, that was our together time. And now we're going to do something called quiet time or independent or whatever you want to name it. The name doesn't matter, right? And you say to them, you know, for the until the timer beeps, this is your turn to play your own ideas, and I'm going to go do my own ideas. And then when the timer beeps, we're going to come back together, and I can't wait to hear about everything you did. Now, I know that sounds laughable if you have a kid who is just like attached to your leg. And I'm going to be 100% honest. It takes a lot of practice and commitment. And that's why I said to you at the beginning that it's so important to understand why you're doing it. And what, because that's what's going to help you. It's so much more about you as a mom, and you're really like leaning into this and making it work. It's not going to be something that just like when you have the call, you can be like, okay, go away and go play now. We know that doesn't work.
Yeah, that's important, and it takes some time. It you know, after Nicole just piped in, she said Lizzie's back. I remember we did a live with her during quarantine. Yes, and it was so beneficial. And after that, I implemented a lot of the things you suggested about quiet time, specifically for my older son, because he doesn't nap. The other two nap. And for many, many months, before I had any childcare at all back, that was my like 1 hour of the day where I really needed to pump out work. Mm-hmm. And a lot of it has proven very successful. He's now back in school 2 days a week. And so it's not like every day as it was, but we still do quiet time. And it looks different every day. You know, we don't always do the same thing. Sometimes I do let him watch a show at quiet time, depending on how the rest of the day is, if we were like out and about and things like that. And I know he didn't watch any TV. But anyway, I just, so much of what you said about quiet time was so important. 2 weeks in a row during the live. Lizzie, I'm going to ask you a question and let you kind of take over for a minute, and just, I'm going to go deal with that and be back. But can you just talk a little bit about like virtual schooling and the breaks? Because I know that that's something a lot of moms have been looking for ideas for, and how to really help those non-screen times.
Yeah.
Okay, so take it away. I'll be right back.
So we are dealing with our district is full remote. We're in Maplewood, and my kids are on screens for a full day of school almost. So my littlest one, I'll use her as the example. She's 7, and I love that her teacher gives them tons of screen breaks. And so what I like to do is, and I think this sounds overwhelming, but when you get in the routine, it's not, is having supplies on hand that are super easy for you to just grab. So I have this all on my blog as well, but grabbing just like a tray and putting just like a few pencils, a few stickers, and a few pieces of paper, and saying, when it's your screen break, this is for you. So it feels kind of special, but it's like something they can go to and work on and then move away from. The other thing we like to do is Play-Doh, because it gives a lot of sensory input. So you can either buy Play-Doh. I have a recipe on the blog, and if you are someone who loves to make Play-Doh, that's great. I'm one of those people. And if not, just buy it. There's so many amazing places to get Play-Doh now. But setting out Play-Doh with just like a few tools on a tray, the novelty of that tray just draws them in, and that's going to help give them that sensory input where their eyes are not on the screen and they're moving their bodies a little bit. I also really recommend, depending on your living situation, if you can, when Sloan has like her 15-minute breaks, we try to go outside, even if it's, for 5 minutes, because just getting that face time away from the screen and into nature is so grounding for them, and for us, right? Because we are staring at the screen also. I know I am working, I'm on my computer, I'm on my phone all the time, and I know how I feel at the end of the day. And so I just imagine what that's like for their little brains and bodies. So you just want to think about getting them away from that computer, moving their bodies or moving their hands, or just having something concrete for them to do so that they're not coming to you, every second. Because I know like we are taking care of other children and we are doing our jobs and everything else there is to do, right?
Thank you for that. And sorry for the interruption, everybody. Hopefully, I know you just rolled right on with it, and I overheard some of what you were saying. And I think that all of that is just so crucial right now more than ever with the screens. And you mentioned something in there that I've seen you talk a lot about on your account, and you may have mentioned it last time, or maybe not, but it was about the importance of getting outside every day, like
Yes.
even in bad weather sometimes, and really how we do that and insist on doing that for our kids and ourselves.
I think the best thing any of us, I mean, look, we're all holiday shopping right now, and I really encourage people to invest money in great outdoor gear for themselves and their kids, because now more than ever, we're not walking around the mall killing time. We're not going, let's trolling Target with the kids to like kill time between like nap and dinner, right? So you really need to get outside. And even if it's raining and even if it's cold, if you have your kids dressed in a good base layer and waterproof overlayer, they're fine. They're moving. It's us who it's really hard for. And if they're not used to it, they're going to say, you know, like, I don't want to go outside. And again, think about why you want them out there, not why the experts say it, not why because you feel guilty, so you should, but really think about for your family and your child what that looks and feels like when you've had a good romp outside in the leaves, or you guys have just chased each other around the block, and like what you know, because it's so, I get it when it's like warm in the house and you're just like drained of energy, you don't feel like, you know, bundling up and doing all the stuff. It's always worth it. It's always worth it. Even if you get outside and you're only out there for 10 minutes, well, you probably just killed a half an hour, because like it takes 10 minutes.
By the time you get everybody dressed, all the shoes on, get out there.
Kids are really capable, even from a very young age, of dressing themselves in the layers. So a great tip is to practice with them. Like when they are watching a show or, you know, whatever it is, have them practice zipping and unzipping their jacket. Have them sit there and practice like putting on the rain pants and taking them off. I learned that from my children's nursery school teacher years ago, and it was the best tip, because now even, you know, my 7-year-old will say like, oh, I need help with my mittens or whatever, and I'll say like, oh, remember nursery school when you learned how to do it all by yourself? Like, I can stand here and wait and help you, but it's such a great skill and it's great for fine motor.
Yeah, that's a great point. I never thought of like, you know, we have all the hooded, like little hoodies and things like that. Okay, practice doing this. Like, that's awesome. Yeah. A couple different questions related to that. Tori is asking, she follows you. She wanted you to touch briefly on the outerwear and base layers that you love. And then I'll get to Nicole's question in a second, because this is another sort of gear specific question. But first, that any particular?
Yeah. So we actually, our favorite shop for outdoor gear is a mom-owned New Jersey shop.
Awesome.
Yeah, my friend Jess owns it. It's called Biddle and Bop. She is an amazing resource. She has 3 little girls, and and it's a small shop. She has the top of the line best gear, but she's so good to talk to because she'll figure out like the sizing with you and all of that stuff. So I really, really recommend checking her out. It's Jess at Biddle and Bop. And that's where we get all of our stuff. I have a post on the blog right now because we were just up in Vermont. And it has all of our gear from Biddle and Bop linked there on the blog.
Awesome.
But really it's just about doing like a good base layer, either like wool or poly, and then waterproof outerwear. And then the mittens. And what do they say? I think they say it's like the feet, the heart, and the hands.
The hands, yeah. But maybe the head though too.
Right. Yeah.
But okay, I have to check her out. I hadn't heard of her before. So, yeah, thank you. And then Nicole, this is sort of also a recommendation, but on a different side. She wants to invest in I think it's called Pickler or an arch for Liam, her son, for Christmas. And I know that you have a few things like that in your home. So bringing it inside, can you talk about some of the things that you use for sort of motion and things like that on a daily basis that you find, you know, must have to really have?
So I have this on my gift guide, and you'll often see it in my Instagram stories, but we have a big XXL rainbow rocker. And so some people will invest in the Pickler triangle, which is amazing. It's like a big wooden arch with rungs across it. So it's
Yeah.
great for like babies who are learning to pull up. Toddlers and preschoolers can climb and balance on it. They're amazing. If you only were going to invest in one, I would say doing the rocker, because the rocker is something that will grow with your children. So it's great for a toddler or a baby, or up to, I mean, my teens use it. So it's great. And it's a great way to bring gross motor play inside.
Yeah. Let's talk about some other play ideas and recommendations. Specifically, you do a ton of things that are art based, and I know that goes back to your background. But can you walk us through some sort of easy ideas for moms who maybe aren't on the artsy side or crafty side, or feel a little intimidated sometimes by like, let's do an art project. Like, where do we start? It doesn't have to be super complicated.
It should not be super complicated. So I actually just launched a new ebook, and it's called The Play Plan. And the idea behind it is that using 5 basic materials that you probably already have at home, each material, it has 5 activities, because I really believe that, yes, I do complicated art projects with my kids sometimes because that fills me with joy. For most people, that's not for everyone, right? So that's just going to stress you out. And I think a lot of people, they look on Pinterest or they look on Instagram and they see these beautiful projects, and then they sit down, they spend all this time and money trying to put these projects together, and they end up frustrated because they spent money and time putting it together, and their kid played with it for like 5 minutes. And then they're left with like a project that, like, do you throw it out? Do you ruin it?
Right.
So I really think when moms are thinking about setting up a play prompt or an art prompt, you really want to think about a few things. One is going to be your bandwidth. What do you have the bandwidth for right now? Because if it's not a fancy Instagram or Pinterest project, don't do it, because no one wins. And I think a lot of times people feel guilty and they think they have to, in order to connect with their kids, do this like fancy project. It's just not the case. Things can be really super basic, and you shouldn't really spend more than 5 to 7 minutes setting something up, because the truth of the matter is your kid might not play with it, right? And that just leaves you resentful.
Yeah. And it's not their fault. It's just,
This is so interesting to me. Like, if you think about when you set up a craft or an art project, your child has to come in, they have to follow the directions. They have to really focus and concentrate on this whole new skill, right? And so when they don't have the time to repeat that project over and over and over, then every time they come to the table, they're learning a new skill. And that's hard. And they've been at school all day, either on the screen or in person. They don't want to come home and sit there and learn a new skill. They want to relax, right? You want to keep things as simple as you can and on their level as you can, because that's when these projects become relaxing. My kids are great at complicated projects at this point because they spent their entire toddlerhoods just with like one jar of paint and one brush and a big piece of paper over and over and over.
Yeah, I love that. And I know Nicole mentioned the big roll of paper idea on the table, which I always see you doing at your home. I would just like to say I don't have like one of the massive ones, but we have a small island in our kitchen. And in the Target dollar section, they had like the brown craft paper rolls at the start of the school year. And I stocked up and got a couple, and my kids love them. And sometimes I'll do like 2 rows, so it covers like the island or whatever. But yeah, that's like a great, really simple thing. And we've used that with paint, we've used it with markers, we've used it with the dot one, and like that, I'm not like super artsy, but like that is totally manageable for me, and something that they really will do for quite a long time and switch up the play within that one activity,
And you can roll that up, put a rubber band on it, and then put out the same paper again. Kids love to revisit an old art project. We as adults think we need to reinvent the wheel and put out something fresh and new every time. And that's actually not the case. Allowing kids multiple opportunities with the same experience, that's where you're going to see real growth and real engagement with your kids and what they're doing.
I love that. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Jen said if they are perfectionists, then they get disappointed if it doesn't look
Mhm.
like the example. There's a lot of ways
I get it.
sometimes.
I'm the
Yeah,
same way.
I
Like,
am too. And mine is always like not as good as the picture. So yeah, I can relate to that, Jen. That's great. And so one of the other things that I forget where my thought was going. Something with the roll of paper. Oh, besides art, some of the other things that are sort of your tried and true. I come back to this all the time with my kids, or like it's an easy thing to set up. Like, can you take us through some of those that are just great ideas to kind of prompt them?
sure. So get a good roll of painter's tape. That I feel like is one of the most valuable, inexpensive supplies because number one, kids love tape. And if you get painter's tape and get a lot of it from like the dollar store or wherever, I mean, give a kid a roll of tape. They'll be busy forever. I mean, give them a roll of tape and just let them at it. Don't tell them what to do with it. I mean, like my daughter takes now little pieces of tape. She picks up and she makes little dresses and animals for her dresses and sweaters for her horses out of tape, and then you just peel it all off. But it's a great thing in the winter because you can make giant obstacle courses. You can make roads and then have the kid, do that, lay that out on the floor. And then have your kids either go on their tiptoe through the maze or do it backwards or have their dolls do it. Or have them set up an obstacle course for you. They love that too, and they'll think and plan so much. And if you have an older child who can draw, you can even take it a step further and have them draw out like a map of what they're going to do before they do it with their tape. You can extend that for a really long time. So painter's tape is a must because you don't have to worry about your floors or your walls.
Yeah, that's great. We've used that in our house, and I've done like tracks for cars. I've done like little simple like tic-tac-toe things and like had the match stuff within there. There's just so many different things, and that's something that like that is something you could look up on Pinterest, and there are so many different ideas, but like they're all very, very easy to do and manageable. And my kids love when I get out that tape. So yeah, that's a great suggestion for anyone who.
Another one I would also say is, there's that saying, like, just add water. Anytime you can stick them in a tub of water, I don't care if they are 1, 7, or 12. They love it. It's relaxing. We love it as adults. I mean, like we come from that, and so setting up anything kind of sensory with water is going to go for a really long time. And if you're someone who can't deal with like the splashing and the mess of water, you can start really simple by getting a big bin and put 2 small bins inside the big bin. That will catch the overflow and only give them 1 cup or 1 pitcher to practice transferring the water. And once they've mastered that and they've learned like the rules and the boundaries of where it's okay for the water to be, then you can add more. And you don't need to do fancy things like color the water. You can, and it's great, and kids love it, but don't let that stop you from just using plain old soapy water. Throw some toys in there, call it a toy wash. They'll do it forever.
And that is like killing 2 birds with 1 stone. I mean, the toys get cleaned, which is like, we need that. And yeah, they have fun with it.
Yeah.
A question from Nicole, because she was talking about some sensory things she does with her son. She reuses rice and beans over and over from the Dollar Tree, but she was asking, how do you handle food sensitivities with other moms who don't agree with using food as fun?
So I guess it wasn't recent. Maybe it was like a month ago. Went off on like a whole tangent on this on Instagram, and it turned into something really amazing, which is that I really don't recommend using food as play in a classroom or in a play date setting. And the reason for that is because we really can never assume anything about anyone else's food insecurity. Food insecurity is something that is so hidden. It's so secretive. There's so much shame around it. And so for me, I try really hard not to ever use food-based play with other people's kids or anyone that I can't assume that about. And that also then takes care of like the food sensitivities or the allergies or any of those things. I think there's so many other things available that we can use that's not food. And that can be buttons or marbles. And this is obviously for the over 3 set. But even for the little kids, like large sensory items, even, you know, like a thing of pom-poms, even like large pom-poms, I would rather see people use that than food. Now, that said, we do have a few tried and true food sensory bins that we've used over and over and over for, I mean, years. But I don't do that with play dates or in a classroom setting.
Yeah, so something you do on your own, you know, with your own family and your own household, but there are other options if you're, you know, going to be with. That's a good point. Yeah, I just actually put pom-poms on my son's Christmas idea list because I've heard they're amazing and he really likes to have his hands and things like that. So I'm glad you said that. I'm glad I'm on the right track with that. That's awesome. That's I think some good things to remember. In terms of, you know, the art side of things, if our children are expressing, you know, interest in that, like my kids always want to do art. Who can blame them? It's fun, you know, but I'm sometimes not the best at coming up with like new simple ideas that I have the bandwidth to accomplish because I do have like other things going on, and you know, if it's a work day or whatever. So what are some things we can do to maybe like switch up the simple stuff to kind of help them feel like it's something new, but nothing that complicated? I don't know if that makes sense.
That does make sense. And I think you're actually really onto something there, because as moms, right, we need to have it like simple, accessible, and easy, but we want to keep our kids engaged and coming back to it, right? So if you have been putting out on the table like roll paper with crayons, then the next day I would maybe put out roll paper and I would put out crayons, but I might only put out like blue and purple crayons, or I might take a bowl and flip it over and trace big circles with a black Sharpie all over the paper so that when they come to that paper, it's a different kind of canvas, but it's not the same basic materials that they're using. So they have the opportunity to master them and become confident using them. Stickers are a great one too, even like those dot stickers from the dollar store. Again, you know, the ones you use to label like at garage sales.
Yeah.
Those are amazing. They're so open-ended. Kids can do so many cool things with them. And that's something that like your 2 or 3-year-old can practice peeling and just crumpling up. You know, it's great for their little fine motor. But then your preschooler or kindergartner might start sorting and organizing and counting and doing that kind of thing. And then your older child, I mean, my older kids come up with the coolest patterns and designs and like whole pictures made out of just dot stickers. And that to me is just evidence of using the same basic material so much that you become really confident in that. And that's where their ideas grow and flourish. It's not about putting out a new craft or a new project. It's really about giving them the opportunity to master the material and believing that they can.
I love that. I love that you said that. And I have to say, you must have a hard time not wanting to frame like so many of what your kids, so many things your kids create, because they're gorgeous. Like some of them, I was like, I would put that in my house. Like I would frame that. Like it's incredible to see what kids are able to come up with. And I'm saying this, by the way, if anyone here knows me, you know that my brother is actually an artist. So I did not get the artistic side of the family genes. I mean, I can do a little bit, but I'm more on like the writing creativity side and performance. But he always was very into that. And I remember back as kids doing sort of the same thing and how he would take it and run with it. And it's just incredible to see the little minds working. So something so simple, the dot stickers I love, I'm totally getting those.
I mean, if you think about it, if like, say, you know, your child is really good at baseball, right? You probably have them playing baseball all the time and they're on a baseball team where they're practicing a couple times a week. They're learning new skills, you know, all these things. You're so much invested into it, right? But when you think about art and play, we don't necessarily do that. Mm-hmm. But art and play, when you invest in it in that way and you give them multiple opportunities to practice, the growth is insane. And what they learn and figure out is, I mean, it's mind blowing.
Yeah, it's so true. So we have talked the last time, and I know that, over the course of the pandemic, this has come up in different mom groups and things, about really the importance of toys that are open-ended. So, art projects is an example of that. But in terms of actual like physical toys, what are some for maybe some moms who are looking for some ideas as we get into the holiday season, really to take us through the winter, that are some sort of indoor at home, must-haves?
Yeah.
I have a couple too, but I'm sure you're going to say them right off the bat because I probably got them from you.
So again, I'm going to say the same thing that I was saying about art supplies, but like having those basic, sturdy, open-ended materials that your kids can use over and over, and you can tweak them a little, like with the circles on the roll paper, right?
Mm-hmm.
To re-engage interest. But giving them those opportunities to use the same materials, maybe more of those same materials as they grow. So for us, we love magnetic tiles. We've been collecting them for years and years. Every year for Hanukkah, my kids get a huge set. So, I mean, at this point, we must have like 5 or 6 huge sets. And now they build these crazy, insane structures, but they can do it and they stay up, and people will DM me and be like, well, you must have special tiles. Our tiles will stay up like that. Special tiles. It is that my kids have learned so much about like structure and engineer. They have had so many failures with these tiles that they've learned how to build structures that stay up. It's not about the toy, it's about the child and the thinking. And so if you look at my gift guides from this year to the year before to the year before, you would see that a lot of these things are repeats every single year.
Right. Yeah.
Because, I mean, my basics would be like wooden unit blocks, the kind you see in a classroom, and then adding to your collection over time. Because again, they're expensive, they're an investment. But foregoing, if you're not going to spend all the money on like the Barbie dream house and the fire station and the Paw Patrol tower, and instead you have these basic open-ended materials and your kids can build those things with, you realize that actually you're spending less money because you're not spending money on stuff you're throwing in the landfill in 6 months.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I think we talked about this before, but, some of like the little plastic figurines and things like that, I'm like, oh, my kids use those to play within the magnet tiles, and they figure out like how they're going to put Marshall, and they are going to build this for Marshall. And so things, it can be a little bit of both. You can still have the character things and things like that, mixed in, but it's having those sort of things that could be for Lightning McQueen, or they could be for Barbie, or they could be for whoever, a stuffed animal, whatever.
A lot of people will I think we as a society are being so brainwashed by seeing these beautiful Instagram pictures of only wooden toys. And the truth of the matter is that if your child loves like their junky plastic kitchen and they play, then that's amazing. And you should not get rid of it because on Instagram,
it's not pretty. Right.
And same thing. I mean, Sloan, my youngest, when she was little, used to carry around this little bag of plastic Paw Patrols. She took she played with them. I mean, those little things bought me hours of free time.
Yeah, things like that can really get you a lot of mileage.
You can have the Paw Patrol figures, but you don't need like the pup tower and like the vehicle and the, that's when things start to get out of control and you end up having too much clutter and junk in your playroom.
Yeah. Can you talk to us a little bit about play storage? Because that is something that I know, well, I think it's just a struggle of motherhood, period, is, toy storage and clutter and what do I do with this and that. But also I noticed that for me, that got like worse during the height of quarantine. And now that we're looking, we're at home and we're looking at these winter months at home and things like that. So talk to us a little bit about some storage you have for that.
Well, space, I don't care if you live in the biggest house or the tiniest apartment. Right now, space is at such a premium for all of us with being stuck at home. And I think we've all, myself included, like felt super guilty over these months stuck at home and like bought so many like stupid little novelty toys because like it was a quick fix in the moment. And now we're like approaching holiday season. We're like, how am I fitting anything else? No, Sloan, my youngest, has like a major stuffed animal thing, which drives me truthfully insane. And so we came to an agreement, and she has one of those big IKEA under the bed storage boxes. And she's allowed to have as many stuffed animals as will fit in that under the bed storage box.
Okay.
Once that thing is full, no more stuffed animals come into the house unless ones go out. The other thing with that also is that every night she has to tuck them all in the storage box under the bed. Cause like, I don't want them all over my house. I don't want to trip over them in the night, but she really loves them. She really values them. So I need to value that as well, but put a limit on it.
Yeah. I think that's like, I mean, so much of motherhood is like honoring things that are important to our child, but still recognizing and realizing that like we're allowed to have boundaries and we're allowed to make decisions that are good for them and good for the household and all of that, and good for our own mental health.
Right, exactly. Because when we don't, that's when we fall down that slippery slope, and we are not showing up as our best selves because we're so inundated with the stuff and the demands, right? And so we need to set those limits and boundaries in order to show up as the parent we want to be.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Jen also mentioned art storage. So, and I know you have some good ideas.
Yeah. So I do have a highlight on my Instagram feed that shows like I have a crazy amount of art supplies. No one needs the amount of art supplies that I have. It is totally an occupational hazard of being a preschool teacher. Okay. So I'll start with telling you that. But I do have like two big IKEA things. And we have mom's art pantry that you have to ask. If you're going to use those we keep downstairs out of sight. Then at home, we have our open-ended art cabinet where we keep very basic supplies and materials that they can use whenever they see fit. And those basic materials are going to be like paper, pencils, not Sharpies, because like I want to know if they're using Sharpies.
Right.
Right. So scissors, a little bit of yarn, some tape, really basic things, just like laid out where they can see them. And like, you don't have to put out, say you get a box of tape. Don't put out 4 tapes, like just one's good. Then if it's really becoming an issue, you can say like, oh, sure, you can go down to my, or I can go into my own stash and get another. Yeah. But they don't, I think sometimes like there's just access to too much. Same thing, like if you get a box of markers, dump out the box of markers, throw the box out and put them in a jar or a, tray or whatever out. Because how many times do you just have like the crushed box and then it's annoying, you can't shove them back in, so then clean up becomes like, and then there's like markers stuck in the crayon thing. Like, so
same with crayons. Do you throw out the box?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
I like either a little shallow bowl or a little shallow tray. It makes cleanup so much easier, and it can be easy for your kid. They become confident about cleaning up, and they don't mind doing it.
Oh my gosh, this is groundbreaking to me. I'm like, because also the thing with the crayon boxes is once one breaks, you're always like shoving in. They're not the right size. It's like, it's a mess. So,
and like all the different boxes are different shapes from different brands. You can't put them all like,
right.
So just a small amount in a small bowl. If you need more, you can ask mom.
Right. And, or even like something that can like, even like, would you use like a pencil? Like, so for us, like our art supplies are in our playroom closet, and my kids are still little. I don't really have like a space for them to continually do art other than our kitchen island. So it's just not possible for us to like have it out. But when we do art, I'll like bring everything out and, we'll lay out several different things. So like, what about like a pencil case or something like that can open flat and you can kind of lay in there? Or like, do you suggest like a jar?
Like those flat, like the silverware organizers.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Got it.
And then just put like a few pencils, a few crayons, the tape, and some string, and there's a tinker tray, and you can pull it out really easily with some paper and call it art, because it is.
Yeah.
And that takes 2 seconds.
That's a great idea. Oh, that is like such a valuable tip. Thank you. Okay, so I want to give everyone just one last chance to kind of get any questions in for Lizzie before we wrap up here in a couple minutes. So if you have any, please let us know. And if you're just coming in and have one, please let us know. And then Lizzie, any sort of like parting words of encouragement that you want to leave us in terms of just staying calm and being able to really be confident in our abilities to help our
I mean, I think when it comes to parenting or art or play, it's really about setting those limits and boundaries for yourself, because when you don't have those in place, everything falls apart and we're burned out. And when we are burned out, I mean, everyone knows this. Like if mom's in a bad mood, the whole ship goes down, right? So we have to take care of ourselves first. And I just think too, like not setting things up that you don't have the bandwidth for because you feel guilty. Because what's going to happen is you're going to end up overwhelmed and yelling, and then the whole thing wasn't worth it in the first place, and you feel worse, right? I just wanted to mention again, I do have this ebook called The Play Plan. It is 25 uncomplicated play prompts because I really believe that play should be simple. It's art and play using materials that are either really easy and expensive to get, or ones you more than likely have at home. But yeah, I think it's just really going to be about taking care of ourselves first.
I love that. I have one more just follow-up question, because I know that a lot of moms watching this and maybe watching the replay, you know, have kids of varying ages and that. So what age do you really, like if you have kids of multiple ages, say you have a couple kids who are older and then a baby, for example, or you know, a toddler and a preschooler and an elementary schooler. What age do you start sort of with the art independent play? And like, what is sort of an easy way to think about tailoring maybe the same activity for different age groups?
Yeah. So I know I'm like going on and on about this play plan, but that is the basis for it. It's so that you use the same material for your toddler that you are going to use for your 8-year-old. Because the idea is when you have these basic open-ended materials, everyone can use them, and it's what their brain and development brings to it that really makes it flow. But as far as doing art, I mean, I started putting out that roll paper on the floor with the really big chunky crayons when my kids could sit up. Because yeah, your baby's gonna put it in their mouth, so you use either like a beeswax crayon or a non-toxic crayon. But just getting those materials in their hand is fantastic, and at the same time, your preschooler can be actually making marks and drawing, and your big kid can be like really creating something elaborate.
I love that. Okay, Jen wants to know your must-buy item. I think that was either her question or in response to something else. But if you had to choose one must-buy item for play,
that's too hard. I don't think there's anything you have to buy. I think it's really. I really think it's about our attitude towards valuing play. I don't think there is a single toy on the market. Look, kids, before kids had toys, what did
they play with? Anything, dirt.
Dirt. And that's just as valuable.
Right. I love that answer. Because not only is it so true, but it also takes the pressure off of, the feeling of needing to have, or, needing to kind of have this, that's really not necessary with so much of what you talked about tonight and so much of what you're all about. Thank you so much, Lizzie. This was so helpful. Really appreciate you taking time to be with us tonight. And I am excited to see just every week what you come up with on your account. So really love following you and all the ideas you share.
Hope you're going to. Thank you so much for having me. It was amazing to be here. I love talking about this stuff.
I can tell, and that's why we love having you. All right. Well, have a great night. Thank you so much again.
Thanks.
Bye. All right, so that was super informative for me. I am definitely doing the crayon marker storage solution tomorrow because I was planning to do a little art with the kids tomorrow morning. So hopefully you guys got a lot out of that also. As always, we always want to hear what you guys want to talk about and any ideas for guests or topics. Both here for our live chat and just on the site in general. So please let us know if you have any ideas for us or anything that you'd like to see. And also, we love when you answer our one question poll of the week. We've been doing these to get an idea of what you guys are thinking about related to our topic of the week for these chats. So if you get a chance, please vote, or not vote, please answer our poll on njmom.com each week, and we may either feature your feedback here or on News 12 as well as we preview these chats on News 12. So thank you so much, Charlie. Sorry you missed it as well, but you can always rewatch also. So if you are just coming in, I just saw a couple people come in, and you missed Lizzie's chat, this will be saved both on our Facebook and our YouTube channel. So you can watch the whole thing and get lots of the great info that Lizzie had to share. So, thank you guys so much. Have a great rest of your night, and we'll see you back here next week. Bye.